Hello chess lovers, Suren here, and in this video I would like to share with you another Sicilian Dragon game. This time on the white side is the magician from Riga, the 8th world chess champion Mikhail Tal. His opponent is Czech international master Ladislav Mista, and the game was played in 1973 in Dubna. Dubna is a town in Russia, and Tal opened up with e4. So c5 by Mista, we have the Sicilian defense, and yes, we have already know, right, that we're going to see the dragon variation and g6. Black is choosing the accelerated dragon. The difference between the accelerated dragon and the main dragon is that black avoids playing d7, d6, so that he can later play d7, d5 in one move. Of course, if it's possible, because now if white chooses the Morozzi bind, then black can never go for d5. But in our game we have knight c3 by Tal, bishop g7, bishop e3, knight f6, bishop c4, black castles kingside, bishop goes back on b3, d6, f3, bishop d7. So we have all these standard moves which can be seen in Yugoslav attack. So we have a Yugoslav attack against dragon variation, which usually leads to double-edged positions. Tal castles queenside, knight d5 and h4. As you know, I have already mentioned a lot of times that when playing against dragon, white's idea is simple: to open up the h file, exchange the dark squared bishops, thus making black's kingside vulnerable, and then announce a checkmate. In theory, all this looks simple, but in practice it's not so easy. h5 by Mista. Mista is stopping any possible advancement on the king side, but this move also has its downsides. In some lies, white can go for g4 move, and thus breaking into pieces black's king side. Here we have bishop g5, we have a vulnerable square, and the dark squared bishop is instantly occupying that hole. Knight h7, which is a rare move. Usually in here black is either playing rook c5 or knight c4, but in our game we have knight h7, bishop h6. So Tal is managing to exchange the dark squared bishops, thus removing that powerful defender, which in some lies is also becoming a powerful attacking piece. And in return black went for an exchange sacrifice, which is again a very standard move in Sicilian Dragon. With this exchange sacrifice, black is blowing apart white's queen side and is making it vulnerable, after which the queen is jumping into the attack. Knight e2 by Tal, bishop b5, rook e1, and knight f6. Of course, black could remove the defender and could win this pawn, but let's not forget that white is an exchange up, and white can offer an exchange of queens. Of course, white is doing great, no problem at all. That's why in our game we have a different move, and after rook e1 we have knight f6, rook d4, rook c8, and rook b4. Tal decided to strengthen his queen side by bringing the rook on b4 square, e6, knight d4, bishop d7, and queen e3, supporting the pawn on c3. Still, all white is doing is strengthening his position. b5, king b2, rook c5, knight e2, knight c6, and queen f4. Of course, right now you can't play knight takes b4, because in this case white will win on the spot. And then white can first play c3, neutralizing the threat, and then can win the knight on f6. That's why in our game after queen f4 we first see knight e8, but here comes a3 by Tal. He's acting against knight b4, which can be met with c takes b4, and again black is suffering heavy losses. That's why after a3 Mista moved his queen back on c7, and rook d4 by Tal. Yes, Tal is offering his rook, but he wants to sacrifice it on d4 square. So far so good, we had an equal game, but it was in here that Mista made a mistake and played knight takes d4, which is allowing white to gain advantage. Instead, it was better to play a5 followed by b4. But in our game we have knight takes d4. Here comes c takes d4, rook c6 and g4. Tal managed to successfully neutralize black's attack on the queen side, and now it's Tal who is attacking. And when Mikhail Tal is attacking, that's something dangerous, guys. G takes h5, knight takes h5, queen h6, a5, but already it's too late. Rook g1, in some lines maybe a rook sacrifice is playable, but right now white wants to munch the knight on h5. a4, black is attacking white's light squared bishop. If you move it away, then your c2 is hanging. That's why Tal played d5. He takes d5. Well, this is already losing on the spot. Actually, this move steps into a checkmate in 9. Instead, it was better to play rook c5. If d takes e6, then a takes b3. If e takes f7 check, then king takes f7. And despite the fact that this looks a bit scary, but it turns out that black is managing to save the position. The king can successfully escape if needed. But in our game, after d5, we have e takes d5, to which Tal simply answered with rook takes g6. At this point, rook takes g6 is playable because after f takes g6, white is managing to switch his light squared bishop into the attack with a check, and in here Mista resigned. Yes, black king is in a mating net, there is no defense, and after bishop takes d5 we have a resignation. Where is that? On move 35 bishop takes d5 comes and we have a resignation. So this was another fascinating game in Dragon Variation, where again, like in Kasparov's game against Piquet, which I published yesterday, we saw 3 rook sacrifices. That's something which you won't see every day, and I hope that you enjoyed this game greatly. In the end, a chess puzzle for you where the task is to find the mating line for white. It's white to move, and I will wait for your answer in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Here are more suggestions for you. Feel free to check them out as well. I will see you in my next video. Take care.